Hello there. The principle of causality, also known as cause and effect, also known as because A happened, B happened. It is the most important part of game development / design, and I won't have anyone tell me otherwise. Although, if you did want to tell me otherwise, feel free to leave a comment below for that sweet algorithm juice. Juice! That's a word we throw around a lot as game devs, isn't it? Game juice, or game feel, is when the sound design, the animations, and all the different parts of your project come together to deliver that really satisfying moment-to-moment gameplay. But if you're anything like me, you're getting really bored of being told to add screenshake and particle effects to your games. The tips are good, but they're getting pretty stale at this point. So, I'm here to show you why getting good game feel is simply a result of implementing cause and effect properly. It doesn't have to be this mysterious, intangible thing that you get from random tricks and tips. I would also like to ask you to subscribe at this point, but I'm not going to because I really like reverse psychology. So before we start with some examples, I want to ask a question. Why doesn't a horse just spontaneously appear behind you? Guarantee you'll be paranoid and check now. But it's also because that would be impossible and absolutely terrifying. So here's some foundation ideas that explain why we don't get spontaneous horses. We as humans live in a physical world with a natural set of rules. Things just don't spontaneously happen, at least as far as our everyday life is concerned. When we are presented with a virtual world, we automatically try to apply the rules of our physical world to the virtual one. If the real world rules don't work, we try and work out the rules for the new virtual world. If we are unable to work out how the rules of the world work, we get frustrated and give up. At each stage of this workflow, a person is constantly trying to apply the principle of cause and effect to try and understand what's going on. The person's inputs are the causes when they try and make things happen, and then the resulting things that happen are the effects, the outcomes. And this is true whether you're in a real world or in a virtual world like a game. For it to make sense and feel good, there needs to be a logical line from cause to effect throughout the whole flow of events, and a significant enough effect that the player can really easily see what's going on. For example, I see a lot of beginners will make their enemies in their game just disappear when they run out of health. Something like this can be incredibly jarring to a player, as it doesn't seem totally logical for something to just completely and instantaneously disappear. Looking at other games for examples, they will often use an explosion or a turn to dust effect, or even just leave a dead or broken version of whatever it was behind. It's this persistence or the transitions from one state to another that allows the player to understand what is happening as it's happening, instead of retroactively trying to work out what just happened. A really good example of this are physics-based games that take advantage of a pre-built physics engine such as Unity's. I have seen this be an incredibly effective way for even relatively inexperienced developers to build a believable and tangible world. Which is a really good thing, by the way, because it reduces the barrier to entry and means we're not all constantly reinventing the wheel by all making our own physics engines all the time. But anyway, these physics engines allow for things like gravity, weight, density, collisions to all happen with relatively little effort, at least compared to doing it on our own. All these things from a physics engine are rules of cause and effect that we already understand from the world they're based off, our real world. Gravity results in falling. Solid objects or rigid bodies result in collisions. Friction leads to things slowing down. Again, they don't need to be realistic physics. Most games generally aren't. The parameters can be whatever you want them to be. A physics engine just provides a pre-built, familiar set of cause and effect rules to use. So why is screenshake so popular? I mean, I've suggested it on this channel at least twice. Well, it's really easy to do, and it's advice that generally applies to a lot of people. About 90% of the games I see involve some sort of guns or explosions, and if you think about it, the camera shaking after a big explosion makes sense. The screen shake effect is caused by the explosions. It's a really clear, logical flow of events. But like I said, I'm pretty tired of this quite generic tip. It's not a bad tip at all, it does really work. But if we want to level up our skills as game devs, we need to start to understand how to use general ideas like cause and effect instead of specific tips that are good in particular use cases, like screenshake. So let's try using cause and effect on a type of game that wouldn't be able to utilize something like screenshake. Something completely flipped. How about the peaceful, tried and tested game we all know and love, chess? Yes, chess. It's a good and simple example, I promise. Digital versions of the game still need to be nice and juicy, and we can't achieve that just by adding screenshake every time you take a piece. Although, maybe. No, you can't just shake the screen every time you take a piece in chess. That would be unbelievably distracting. So, quiet in the room please, I just want you all to appreciate this sound effect. It's so good. Just one more time. Yes, it's such a perfect sound effect. Also, I know this example with chess is very simple, so apologies if it's too simple, but I think it's really good to understand these concepts with the most simple example you can possibly find, at least to start with. However, in addition to the sound effect, the fact that the player virtually picks up the piece and drags it all the way across the board ensures they are in control of the actions that are happening at all times and can mean that they have a perfect understanding of the flow of events in their head. So even in this incredibly simple example, we have two entire cause and effect scenarios. You click your mouse, the cause, it picks up the piece and shows you where it can move, keeping the player informed. A visual effect. You place your piece, the cause, the game plays a really satisfying sound effect to show that you've successfully played a piece. Effect. At no point in this entire scenario is the player left to wonder what they have to do next, at least in terms of using the game's controls. Everything they do to cause an impact on the game by moving pieces has a really obvious and logical effect. I really think this idea is important for us to wrap our heads around, and topics like this can help us to really hone in on what we think about when we're trying to design our games. They help us progress past the point of really specific tips and pointers. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video, as I do my best to help you guys out, and subscribing would really help me out. Be sure to follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with the latest updates on my current game project, Project Drifter. Join the Discord too if you want to get feedback on your own games as well as interact with other devs on the server. With all that said, until next time, goodbye.